The fork slipped from Margaret Chen's trembling fingers, clattering against the porcelain plate with a sound that seemed to echo through her entire body. Around her, the upscale bistro hummed with the comfortable noise of people who'd never had to choose between paying rent and buying their child a birthday dinner. She pressed her napkin to her lips, trying to steady herself as she watched her daughter Sarah stare at the menu with those heartbreakingly hopeful eyes. Today was Sarah's 8th birthday, and Margaret had promised her something special. She just hadn't expected special to mean choosing between the cheapest pasta on the menu and keeping the lights on next week. Across the restaurant, tucked in a corner booth beneath a painting that probably cost more than Margaret's car, sat Daniel Torres and his daughter Lily. Daniel's face had graced Forbes magazine 3 times in the past year. Torres Tech had just gone public, making him one of the youngest billionaires in Silicon Valley. But right now, none of that mattered. Right now, he was just a father trying to spend quality time with his 8-year-old daughter before another business trip took him away for 2 weeks. "Daddy, can I get the chocolate lava cake?" Lily asked, her eyes scanning the dessert menu with the kind of careful consideration most people reserved for buying houses. "You can have anything you want, sweetheart," Daniel said, though his attention kept drifting to his phone, where notifications from Tokyo were already piling up. He was here, but not really here, a pattern that had become his life's defining characteristic. The waiter appeared at their table, pad in hand. "The young ladies decided. The lava cake, please," Lily said. "And can it have extra ice cream?" "Of course, Miss Torres." As the waiter walked away, Lily's gaze wandered across the restaurant, the way children's eyes do when they're looking at the world with fresh curiosity instead of jaded familiarity. That's when she saw her. Another little girl with dark curly hair and a yellow dress that had been washed so many times the color had faded to pale sunshine. The girl was whispering something to her mother, who kept shaking her head with an expression that made Lily's chest feel tight. "Daddy," Lily said, tugging his sleeve. "Look at that girl over there." Daniel glanced up from his phone, following his daughter's gaze. He saw Margaret and Sarah, saw the way the mother's hands shook slightly as she closed the menu, saw the daughter's smile falter and rebuild itself with the kind of bravery that only children possess. "What about her, honey? She looks sad." "Why does she look sad?" "It's a restaurant. Restaurants are supposed to be happy." Daniel started to offer some easy explanation, the kind adults use to smooth over the uncomfortable edges of reality. But before he could speak, their waiter returned with Lily's dessert, a magnificent chocolate lava cake with vanilla ice cream slowly melting down its sides, dusted with powdered sugar and surrounded by fresh raspberries. Lily stared at it, but she didn't pick up her spoon. Instead, she kept looking at the other girl, who was now coloring on the back of a paper placemat while her mother spoke quietly with their waiter. Daniel couldn't hear the conversation, but he could read the body language, the mother's apologetic tone, the waiter's slightly stiff politeness, the way they settled on just water and a side salad to split. "Daddy," Lily said suddenly, her voice carrying that particular quality of determination that he recognized from himself. "Can I give her my cake?" The question landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples through everything Daniel thought he understood about his daughter. "What? That girl? It's her birthday. I heard her mama tell the waiter." Lily's eyes were fixed on Sarah with an intensity that made Daniel's heart ache. "She doesn't get to have cake on her birthday, Daddy. That's not right. Can I give her mine?" Daniel felt something crack open inside his chest, something that had been closed for a very long time. He looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and saw past the designer clothes and private school education to the person she was becoming. And he realized, with sudden clarity, that this moment mattered more than any board meeting or product launch ever could. "Are you absolutely sure?" he asked softly. "That's your favorite dessert?" Lily nodded, already pushing back her chair. "I can have cake anytime, Daddy. You always say yes. But she can't. And everybody should have cake on their birthday." Daniel stood with his daughter, and together they crossed the restaurant. As they moved between tables, conversations began to fade. People noticed, not because Daniel Torres was a billionaire, but because there was something about a little girl carrying a dessert plate with both hands, walking with such purpose, that made everyone stop and pay attention. They reached Margaret's table just as she was explaining to Sarah that they'd celebrate properly at home with a cupcake from the grocery store. Both mother and daughter looked up in confusion as Lily appeared beside them, holding out the cake like an offering. "Hi," Lily said, her voice clear despite her nervousness. "My name is Lily, and I heard it's your birthday. This is chocolate lava cake with vanilla ice cream, and it's literally the best thing in the entire universe. I want you to have it because everyone deserves something amazing on their birthday." Sarah's eyes went wide, darting from the cake to her mother to Lily and back again. Margaret's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks before she could stop them. "We can't," Margaret began, but her voice broke. "Please," Lily insisted, setting the plate gently in front of Sarah. "It'll make me really happy if you eat it. And Daddy says that making other people happy is the best feeling in the whole world." "Right, Daddy." Daniel, who'd been standing back to let his daughter lead, stepped forward. He was suddenly aware that the entire restaurant had gone silent, all eyes on this small drama unfolding. "She's right," he said quietly. "And if I may, I'd like to cover your meal tonight. Consider it a birthday gift from one family to another." Margaret shook her head, pride and desperation warring on her face. "That's too much, we couldn't possibly." "Mama," Sarah whispered, staring at the cake like it was a miracle. "It's okay to say yes. Teacher says it's okay to let people be kind." Something in those simple words broke through Margaret's resistance. She nodded, unable to speak, and Sarah picked up the spoon with reverent care. The first bite seemed to transform her entire face, eyes closing, smile blooming, a small sound of pure joy escaping her lips. Lily grinned. "Good, right, it's magic," Sarah breathed. What happened next would be talked about in that restaurant for years to come. A woman at the next table called over the waiter. "Bring out a birthday cake from the kitchen. The biggest one you have. This young lady deserves a proper celebration." An elderly couple stood and approached, the woman pressing a small wrapped gift into Sarah's hands. "I always keep spare presents for my grandchildren," she said with a wink. "But I think you need this more today." A businessman in an expensive suit added, "Put their meal and dessert on my bill. And bring out whatever the birthday girl wants." Within minutes, the staff had transformed Margaret's modest table into a celebration. Balloons appeared from somewhere. More desserts materialized. The manager himself brought out a cake with 8 candles already lit, and the entire restaurant sang happy birthday to a little girl who'd walked in expecting nothing and found herself surrounded by strangers who'd become, for one magical moment, family. Daniel stood back, watching his daughter beam as Sarah blew out her candles. Lily clapped and cheered like she'd known Sarah her whole life. And Daniel realized that in trying to give his daughter everything money could buy, he'd almost forgotten to teach her the one thing that mattered most. That true wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts or stock portfolios, but in moments like these, in the courage to see someone else's pain and do something about it. "Thank you," Margaret said later, gripping Daniel's hand with both of hers. "You have no idea what this means. I've been working 3 jobs since my husband passed, and I wanted so badly to give her one special memory. I thought I'd failed." "You didn't fail," Daniel said gently. "You raised a daughter who understands that love matters more than fancy restaurants. That's not failure. That's success." As they prepared to leave, Sarah ran up to Lily and threw her arms around her. "You're my best birthday present ever," she whispered. Lily hugged her back fiercely. "Wanna be friends? Real friends?" Sarah nodded, and the 2 girls exchanged phone numbers with the solemnity of a business contract. Outside, as Daniel helped Lily into the car, she turned to him with serious eyes. "Daddy, I'm glad I gave her my cake." "Why's that, sweetheart?" "Because the cake just made my tummy full. But this made my heart full. And hearts are way more important than tummies." Daniel pulled his daughter close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, feeling tears he hadn't cried in years slip down his cheeks. "You know what? You just taught me something really important." "What?" "That maybe I've been building the wrong kind of empire. Maybe the real legacy isn't in silicon and circuits. Maybe it's in raising someone who knows that a little bit of kindness can change everything." That night, Daniel made 2 decisions. First, he'd cut back his travel schedule to spend more time with Lily. Second, he'd establish a foundation to help families like Margaret's, not out of guilt or tax benefits, but because his daughter had shown him what truly mattered. And back in her small apartment, as Sarah clutched her new toy and finished the last bite of leftover cake, Margaret tucked her daughter into bed and whispered, "See? The world is full of good people. Don't ever forget that." "I won't, Mama," Sarah murmured sleepily. Today was the best birthday ever. Because sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped not in expensive paper, but in the simple words of a child who understands that having everything means nothing if you're not willing to share it. And sometimes, all it takes is one small act of kindness to remind an entire room full of strangers that underneath everything else, the money, the status, the carefully constructed walls, we're all just human beings trying to find our way home. And sometimes, that journey starts with a little girl asking, "Can I give her my cake?"